What's up, everyone? It's Adar coming back at you with another episode of Startup Engineering Daily. Hop right into it. So if you saw the last video, you know that the CEO of Replit, Amjad, called out Vercel and Next.js just for how coupled they are to each other, how you kind of can really only deploy Next on Vercel, which then had Lee coming back and Guillermo, both from Vercel, defending the product and saying and exposing that Replit was actually hosted on Next itself. And you can see here that Amjad went on a podcast and said, emotions run high on X, it's water under the bridge, Vercel is a great product. Now there's even more drama because he tweeted that we won't need to code anymore because of AI, but we all know how that is. Next, though, as the exploit for Next.js was unfolding, we had Matthew Prince, CEO of Cloudflare, come out and he promoted this product Diverse. I saw this misreported that Cloudflare launched this, but this just seems to be launched by this guy Brandon, which helps you move from Vercel to Cloudflare. And Matthew Prince comes out hard. He says, save money, get better performance, and work with a company that actually cares about security. Hashtag no brainer. Super volatile from a public company CEO, but it's awesome. Then we have Guillermo with the reply. I think Cloudflare is responsible for one of the worst security disasters in internet history. Tried to use your product and had nonstop incidents and had to move off. We mitigate DDoS attacks you proxy to us daily. In parentheses, you're slow. Despite your constant cheap shots, we're engaging with your team for better collaboration in the future. We want a secure web. And so this link is to an incident called Cloud Bleed, which essentially was just a complete explosion of security breaches where they were leaking IP addresses, they were leaking request data, authentication keys, and just everything under the sun. But when this happened in 2017, towards the beginning of my career, I actually hadn't heard of this. So it's kind of hard to argue which exploits are the worst, which vulnerabilities, but this is definitely up there with a pretty bad one. So I'm surprised they still have so much trust to this day, but it's just a part of the industry. And as I reported in the last video, since Vercel didn't reach out, which was a mistake on their part when they heard about the vulnerability, Cloudflare had to do like a hot patch to fix it. But what they actually did by fixing it was blocking the middleware header that made it so you could bypass the middleware in the first place. But by doing that, it also broke Supabase because any request that would be sent out from the middleware also contained that header. So Cloudflare was blocking all those requests to Supabase, and they actually had to take down the hot patch and make it opt-in, which is, just hilarious. But it's still Vercel's fault because they knew about the vulnerability and they didn't reach out to Cloudflare to help them patch it ahead of time and kind of mitigate these possible issues. They had to hotfix it themselves. But we do have Guillermo even coming back with the reply to this, saying they take down half their regions every day, go to their status page. So this is only just getting started. Then we had Guillermo come out and say Vercel stands for a better, more secure web. We missed the mark on how we communicated about this CVE, especially with industry partners. We'll iterate our coordination and disclosure processes will strengthen as a result. I truly appreciate the outpouring of feedback from the community. This was fun. It's hard to say where Vercel stands. People are giving up on serverless, even though Vercel has made great steps to improving DDoS attack prevention. It's still not perfect, and I've tried to give some of their feedback and hopefully see some of that implemented soon. But as a whole, I like Vercel. Then actually yesterday we had Malte Ubel, I think this is how you pronounce it, who's the CTO of Vercel, come out and congratulate this guy, Dane Necht, I guess, or Connect, like the basketball player, who is now the CTO of Cloudflare. So I don't know if this had anything to do with the beef. I don't think the CTO was doing any tweeting, but maybe with the way they handled the patch and took down Supabase was problematic. But there's a new CTO of Cloudflare, so maybe there'll be better relations between Vercel and them moving forward. Next, we have M. Jackson, who works at Shopify on Remix, it seems, and also X-Twitter, which is cool. Just tweeting how they don't like React server components. It's just not working out. People are definitely starting to pile on with the hate of Vercel and Next, and it's just very easy to hate this experimental software, especially when people don't implement it correctly, right? By making large, long-lasting server calls from their React server components. It's definitely not the most intuitive thing to build super quick products with RSCs. I still like to do a lot of stuff on the client. But with that, we had Evan Yu, who's the creator of Vue and Vite, so an absolute killer, but he also has beef with Vercel, I believe, and against Next, which makes sense. And he says, I don't think RSC itself being a React feature is a problem. It unlocks some interesting patterns. The issue is the trade-offs involved in making it work. It leaks into or even demands control over layers that are previously not in scope for client-side frameworks. This creates heavy complexity, in parentheses, and associated mental overhead in order to get the main benefits it promises. React team made a bet that they can work with the Next team aim to polish the DX to the extent that the benefit would be essentially free, that the RSC can be a silver bullet for all kinds of apps, and that it would become the idiomatic way of using React. In my opinion, that bet has failed. I'm not sure what I think about that. I guess since it's been 5 years, that definitely is a worthwhile experiment, and it hasn't taken over, and Page's router is definitely a lot cleaner than App Router still to this day, in my opinion. So I think this is a fair take. And also Vite is exploding bigger than ever. So there's definitely something to this. I haven't used Remix yet, but people like that too. The React Router rolled in. We also have this follow-up tweet where he's basically just like piling on, saying he never liked the direction of RSCs, but he held off because he wanted to see if the React team could figure it out, which, like I mentioned before in previous videos, I definitely think the React team does not understand something, or they're missing some community piece, because the frameworks are always the ones that have to take control. And, Vercel is kind of in charge right now with, I guess, how they've hired React maintainers. I'm not too tapped in, but at least that kind of seems like the vibe that people have, especially, from the Remix Shopify side. But, we'll have to keep posted on this. I feel like at this point, it's not worth moving off any projects from Next or from any existing frameworks, but it might be worth doing investigation on like Remix or Solid or Svelte, etc. when starting a new project, like always, But Next definitely was like a kind of standard framework that you could just trust, and now I think that's kind of moving away to some extent. Even though Vercel does make the argument and does work to support Next being a separate entity from Vercel and making it deployable anywhere. Next, we have Hono.js with a new starter template, Cloudflare Workers plus Vite. So if you want to build a Vite project and deployed on Cloudflare Workers, this could be something really cool. I haven't tried out Hono, but I've heard really good things. Heard it's really fast, so it could be something to look into. And then lastly, we have the Tinycorp, who, if you haven't heard of them, they're working on Tinygrad, which is essentially like a faster PyTorch that they're trying to build, and they're trying to really take full advantage of the hardware and just make the software as efficient as possible. They're releasing a green V2, and the green and red is just NVIDIA versus AMD. The AMD is cheaper, but it doesn't have the drivers because they don't really care about AI for whatever reason. GeoHot has made that clear when talking about the company, and even Tinygrad has offered them to work on their drivers, but they don't care. So green is definitely the more production ready, which is NVIDIA, obviously the #1 AI chip. And they have this green V2, which is fewer teraflops, but you get 4 5090 GPUs, you get lots of RAM, 128 gigabytes, and all these other specs that I'm not too tapped into, 32 core AMD CPU, which is interesting. And also I forgot to add, green V2 is coming at $25,000 MSRP. You used to be able to do like a pre-order check, but they're not doing that for this one. It's just 25 grand up front, and the original green is out of stock, but also 25 grand when it comes back in stock, and the Pro for 40 grand. That's all the news for today. Tomorrow we'll discuss new model launches, including ChatGPT's image generation. And thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow.